Morning. Welcome to the May CalSTRS board meeting. It feels like, wow, it's been a few months, so I feel like spring has sprung. The flowers are blooming. My dog got a foxtail up its nose the other day. If you are a dog owner, you know that's the worst thing to have happen. Boy, oh boy, so be careful out there, but it's beautiful. Spring is amazing down in Los Angeles where we have a lot of rain and it's beautiful. So I'm excited about talking about benefits and services this morning. Of course, as the chair of this committee, I think this is the most important thing we talk about at CalSTRS. I am an active member of CalSTRS, so I care about this, but obviously many of us on this board spend a lot of time with our members and figuring out how we do the best job we can to serve our members, and benefits and services is a really important priority to us. So looking forward to our conversation this morning. With that, Summer, can you take the roll?
Absolutely. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Yamamoto?
Here.
Mr. Tang?
Here.
Ms. Bradford?
Here.
Ms. Whittaker? Whitaker.
Here.
Chairperson Hendricks, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you.
And then read this.
I think you're going to be reading something for us, Summer.
Just a short statement before we start. The CalSTRS board's meetings are live web streamed, video archived, and available to the public on calstrs.com. Individuals who wish to address the board should wait for the 10-minute public comment period at the end of the agenda item the speaker wishes to address. For comments not pertaining to a specific agenda item, there will be an opportunity for additional statements at the end of the open session. Each speaker is allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to comment. However, if there is not enough time for each speaker to have 3 minutes, the timing will be at the discretion of the chair. To protect the privacy of speakers under the age of 18 who wish to address the board, only their first name and affiliated organization may be provided, but other personal identifying information, such as their last name, age, or school, may not be shared.
Great, thank you, Summer. I did want to just take a moment to thank Bill Perez and his team, Lon Lay and others in Glendale. I live in Eagle Rock, which is a 5-minute drive, thankfully, to Glendale. And I spent last week talking to our staff that spend time in our service centers around the state. And again, I get an earful because I live in Los Angeles, so I always hear if calls aren't being answered or there's issues with parking and I have to tell you, obviously just both hearing from my own members saying how much they appreciate the Glendale Service Center, but also just hearing from our benefit specialists around the state. It was really inspiring just to hear we had a conversation and I asked them, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the things you love? And just to hear our staff talk about how fun it is to talk to teachers. And we all know that because we love this work. But it was just neat to kind of hear them talk about the stories and how meaningful it is for them to help teachers with this really important and stressful time of thinking about retiring and the paperwork and all that. So it was just really lovely to kind of be on the front line. I think those service centers are kind of the first line of contact for a lot of our members. And so having people that are happy to work there, excited to see teachers as they walk in is really important. And it was reassuring to me to kind of see the culture of those service centers reflecting the culture I think we as a board and we here in Sacramento imbue as well. So thank you, Bill, and to team for that good work that you do all around the state for our members. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve our agenda for today.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. Okay. So we have on the consent, we have approval of minutes for in January. Are there any items you wish to, do you want to pull that or any corrections? Karen, I'm looking at you. Nope. Okay. So we have our minutes. So information items, we have a couple of information items. We have no action items for today. So we're starting off with our contact center overview and Shani Kaiser-Bose. I hope I'm saying your name right. So Shani, come on up and talk to us about our contact centers. Welcome and good morning.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to come and share a little bit about our contact center operations today. I have some slides to share, but before I do that, I would like to introduce or debut with you a video that our communications team helped with. The initial goal is our member education. Some of these tidbits will be posted on social media, but they were nice enough to put it together in a video for me to share with you. So,
Communications is busy these days. I love it. Good job.
very supportive.
Love it.
There we go. Whoops. Let me go back here. John?
Thank you for calling CalSTRS. This is Philip speaking.
Thank you for calling CalSTRS. This is Takara.
Thank you for calling CalSTRS. This is Sharon.
The CalSTRS Contact Center is here to support and serve the teachers of California. We want to provide the best in-class service.
One of the great things about this job is that so often in our formative years we go through, our K through 12 education and then never see our teachers again. And I have an immense level of gratitude for the fact that I get to come back and be of service.
I feel special connection to the profession of teaching because I have a lot of teachers in my family, so to be able to assist members over the phone, either to help them understand their CalSTRS benefits or help a member transition into the service retirement, definitely is rewarding for me.
Thank you for calling CalSTRS. My name is Darian.
Whenever a California teacher reaches out, there are about 70 representatives and nearly 50 support staff standing by to provide great service and information so educators can make informed decisions.
If we were to just take an average of 1,000 phone calls a day and saying that that's what we receive here at the contact center, that means for every working day that we have, we take over 250,000 phone calls a year. When we're receiving those phone calls, we have to touch on multiple different departments, multiple different topics.
How can I help today?
Members can expect prompt service when they call. In a recent evaluation, our callers waited an average of 13 seconds to speak with an agent and less than 1 business day for a secure message.
That's something that, I try to do in my day-to-day duties is be the person I would want to talk to if I was in their position.
We aim to be professional, personable, and courteous in every interaction while providing complete, accurate, and timely information for our members.
Once you move out of school, you never see these teachers again. So this is a way for me to be able to give back and be thankful and kind of be able to provide the support they gave to me as a child. Now I'm kind of giving it back to them.
We did not coordinate our comments this morning, but I'm like, that's pretty, wow. That's lovely.
I thought you haven't seen anything yet. Okay, let's put the slides up there. So that was 7 of our contact center agents, and I wish they could all be here. I wish we could have 120 people here, but they're on the phones taking care of our membership. So again, my name is Shani Kaiser-Bose, and my title is Director of the Customer Service Division, and my job is to support the 120 people in the division in taking care of our members. So I'll kind of walk you through a little bit about the contact center and what we do and how we do it. Ooh, I do this. I was going to say Jonathan. Okay, so this is our business strategy. And just in general, we strive to be able to provide the best possible service. We know that our members don't have a choice in the contact center. There isn't another one on the corner, but we don't take that for granted. We always say we want to be the contact center that they would choose if they had a choice. So, but we also know that it takes good people to be able to provide good service. So I'll talk a little bit more as we go through the slides about how we identify the talent that we bring onto the team. These are our priorities as a division, and these are kind of our guiding principles that we use when we think about where do we spend our time. When we make decisions, we consider these things. Of course, the customer experience being there, our people, which are our team members in the division, and the culture. So within the customer experience, we want to make sure our membership feels that they received everything they needed to make the decisions, the important decisions that they have to make. And for our team members, we're in a constant state of developing them, making sure it's an engaging environment for them to work in and that they have the tools to be successful. And within that, last but not least, kind of maintaining a culture of recognition, collaboration, just a very healthy work environment. And I want to highlight, you'll hear me say customers. Sometimes we say customers rather than members and beneficiaries, just because it's less syllables and we focus on the customer experience. So first off, to talk a little bit about the contact center role, we are, the point of the video too is to kind of be able to put a face, because we are on the phone the most of the time. And so it's not a group of faceless people. There are people that really care about what we do. And of course, like I mentioned, providing quality service and timely service and ensuring the security of our membership is very important. But we're the voice of CalSTRS. Many of our members, that might be the only person they talk to at all or until they retire. So the other piece that my family and friends are surprised to hear is when I say we are the voice of our members within CalSTRS, because it is not unusual for individuals from different divisions to come and say, what are our members saying? What are you hearing? How's this publication working for them? You know, is there anything that's confusing? And we provide that feedback and things get resolved. Also, how many people have we heard from that were impacted by a fire? That type of question comes through. So we get to share that information. This depicts the volume of interactions that we have. There are a lot of touch points, as you can see. Phone calls, about 250,000 a year we have, and there's about 60 people that we typically have in the contact center. You know, it ranges with turnover, but pretty consistently about 60, taking that 250,000 calls a year. And there's 35,000 secured messages. So it's a lower number, but we do take pride in being able to provide the service the way our members want it. Some want to call, and some want to do an online message, and some want to just do it on My CalSTRS. So we will help them get signed on, and we will walk them through My CalSTRS as well. A lot of touch points there. And as far as the talent that we have in the organization, we are, in the contact center industry, there's turnover. A lot of people come and they learn a lot about the organization, and some stay because it works very well for their lives, and some like to move on to different roles. So we make sure that we are in a constant state of recruitment, because if we turn off that engine, it's hard to get it going again. So we always have recruitments going. We have about 100 people a month that apply for our positions. And so that gives us the opportunity to be picky, you know, and what we look for, we look for smart people who are service-oriented and have some experience providing service. Also people that work well in a fast-paced environment that's constantly changing. So we have done a pretty good job about being able to pick the best people, and then they go into training. And we do offer a monthly training as well. We don't always have to do it. It depends on turnover and that type of thing, but we're always available, because in this role, if a seat is empty, we won't be able to take care of members. So we take that very seriously. The new hire training is 7 weeks. And in that, they gain the knowledge that they need. They gain the soft skills. They get to learn about our expectations around quality and how to use the tools, because there's so much information. Nobody could remember all of this. But so we do have a tool that they can use to be able to access information at any given time. So they learn a little bit, and then they get on the phone and they do a little bit and go back and learn some more. It's about 8 weeks they're out on the floor. 7, 8 weeks. And then the learning doesn't stop there. We do have a culture, like I said, of development and of coaching. So we're always striving to be the best we can. There's refreshers that are always happening. There's updates, because we're speaking about the workloads of various parts of the organization. Sometimes processes change or timelines change, so we're constantly staying on top of that. And then there's career support and development. you know, once we've developed you so that you've mastered the current role, again, there are some people that want to stay, and then some people that'll say, help me get over to maybe disability. I'd like to learn more about that and be a caseworker. So we are, the leaders in the division are very committed to helping the individuals be able to do what they want to do. And more than half of our turnover stays within CalSTRS. So it's kind of a great place to grow the talent, and they know a lot, and then they move on to a different role. And we're proud of that role in the organization. So we say it takes a village. So we've got the contact center here, and like I mentioned, there's about 60 people in the contact center, but the rest of the division really is supporting them for the most part in everything they need. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the different types of support. We've got our workforce management team, and they do the scheduling. They take a look at historical data and the call patterns when they come in, and they'll project what will happen for that day and then schedule based on that so that we can make sure that we do our best to be there when the phone calls are coming in. So breaks and lunches, how many people can have time off? They're just expert analysts at doing that. Of course, our training team, which I talked a little bit about. We have a quality assurance team, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. They're helping us ensure the quality. Research and communications, and what they do is they manage our knowledge-based tool, which is a tool that we have where we keep all of the information so that our folks can go in and access the information as it's needed. Account services, this particular team, they're just laser focused on entering demographic information for the most part. So this is a team of 7 people. Last year, I believe they entered about 50,000 address changes and direct deposit and tax withholding, that type of thing, because not everybody wants to do it online. We do encourage online, but we'll do it the way the member wants to do it. And last but not least, our leaders. We meet with new hires when they come in, and we commit to them, the leaders at every level in our organization, and we even call out Bill that we're there to help make them successful, and we're there for them, and we're always accessible. So they're providing coaching and helping remove barriers and anything so that our agents can do their job well. I mentioned quality assurance earlier, and quality, a top priority for us, and how we ensure that is a few different ways. We have our quality assurance team, and they evaluate calls and the online messages. So they're going in and listening, and sometimes there's feedback from those calls. Overall, we do pretty well, but there's opportunities here and there, and we don't just pass a score to the agent, we talk about the behavior. And they're listening for things like, did we verify that was the actual member we're talking to so that we can keep their account safe? Did we provide accurate information? And were we thorough? Did we document the account appropriately? Because we have to document everything there so that we have a record. And they're also great coaches, that team. They go into the new hire class and start coaching new hires on quality from the very beginning. And they could pick up and take a call if necessary, and they have. Also, the coaching, that comes from peer mentors and the leaders, and even we have things that we do like call listening sessions where an agent will say, pick a call, and they pull it up, and we say, yeah, what do you think you did well on that call? And there's self-evaluations happening, just constantly trying to be the best that we can. And finally, our customer satisfaction surveys. In a moment, I'll talk about the scores for those, but we listen to our customers and what they have to say, how did they feel the experience was, and that's important to us. Here's our performance. These are our service performance objectives, and this is what gets reported out. So this is a really high level to be able to see how the contact center organization is doing. And I'll kind of walk you through these. The first one is what we call our service level. So we want to make sure that we are able to answer those calls within 30 seconds or less. And the target is to do that 75% of the time. And for the fiscal year to date, which is almost a year, we're about 92% responding to those.
These numbers I'm just like, I think about how long it takes me to respond to emails or to the phone.
Yes,
These are
yes.
very impressive numbers.
We always talk about when you call your cable company, how long does it take them to answer? And also, you mentioned that someone said they called and it took a while, and I feel like a punch in the gut. But I will tell you, on average, year to date, our members waited 14 seconds to be able.
A long time ago, years ago.
Oh, good, okay.
So that was not a recent, wasn't a recent anecdote, so.
Well, and it can happen. If everybody decides to call at the same time and it happens to be a payday,
Yeah.
and sometimes we'll call it a triple threat. It'll be a payday on a Monday, right? Or a Tuesday right after a holiday, and, it's rough. But overall, 14 seconds are what our callers are waiting. Abandoned calls. This is typical within the industry, that we take a look at how many calls hung up, how many callers while they were waiting in queue. And some would say, why isn't that 0%? But it never really will be, because sometimes, your doorbell rings as soon as you call, or you get another call. So industry standard is to remain below 3%, and we're at less than 1% there. So, and that's likely because they're not having to wait too long. They don't have to hang up. As far as our member satisfaction, as standard within our organization, we say 75% tends to be where it's good to be for a customer service organization. And I will share that year to date, we have 95% satisfaction on the phone calls. And these are scored by our callers right after the survey. The average. Yes.
If you want to opt into the survey, we get, okay.
Exactly, and we just transitioned to that.
Okay.
Recently. Prior to that, we were contacting them about a month later, and too often we were hearing about things that didn't have anything to do with the call. So we said, well, let's change that.
Really? That never
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Since you called me.
Yes. So, and then for those online messages, we like to respond in less than 2 days. And I stay in touch with the other pension systems and hear what they're doing. And that, I haven't come across any that set their target to be so fast. And we're actually able to do it in less than a day. So we don't let the targets limit us, I'll say. And then this last one is the satisfaction with the online messages. And again, the target's 75%. We're 78% here. So you can imagine, yes, we're hitting the target, but we're not happy with that. We have focus groups going. We've brought in our continuous improvement team. And what we're finding is that it's harder to wow a customer via online message or via email, because you can't make that connection. And often we're even finding that they maybe think they asked a question that they didn't. So we're just trying to crack the code on how we can be the best we can here, but we're hitting the target. Just a couple of points of pride I wanted to make sure that I shared with you. And that point of service survey is the first one. We rolled that out in July of 21. So nearly 2 years. And during that time, we've had 70,000 callers respond to that survey. So like you said, they opt in. When you call, would you like to take a survey after the call? And we had 70,000 that actually took that survey, and they were 97% satisfied with the interaction with the agent. And I know on the previous slide I shared 95 because we have 5 questions, but 3 of them are specifically about that agent and the interaction, and 97% said that they were satisfied with that interaction. So definitely a sense of pride, and it shows the quality of the people that are doing this work. The other thing I'm really proud about is the adaptability of the team. We were in the office, pandemic hit, and they worked magic. Not alone. We had technology services helped us to be able to do that, but we didn't miss a beat in the service that we provided. And we did it from home for that long period of time, and then transitioned to the hybrid environment. And we're in the office a couple days a week now, and still no hiccups in the service that we provided. And the other things here, I've talked about the development and the continuous improvement. The other thing I'm really proud about is how involved our staff are in making that a great division to work. We have quite a few staff-led committees. We have an engagement committee, a change management. We have a communications task force. And so this is an opportunity for them to play a role in that environment and also to gain some skills. So we try to teach them how the skills that they gained or demonstrated during the time on that project, how do you translate that to your resume or to when you're in an interview, so that you don't underestimate those things. They're pretty powerful. So the final slide here is to talk about our future. And of course, we're so successful, the team does such an amazing job that we want to be able to sustain that. So how do we continue doing that is the primary goal. We want to ensure that there's no service level interruption as we move to the new building. We're moving to the 7th floor of the new building, and we will all be on the same floor, which we're so excited about. Right now, the majority are on 2 different floors, but we actually have members of the division on 4 different floors. So we will all be together at that point. And so that collaboration and camaraderie will only become stronger being together. And last but not least, our technology. And we're taking a look at our telephony system and making sure that it's the best system for us. And how do we make sure that we're leveraging everything and maximizing and optimizing that technology so that we can provide the best service possible and the best experience for our agents. Because sometimes technology can be frustrating. So we want to make sure that that's, yeah. So that is all I have for you today.
Wow.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a bunch of questions, but I am the chair, so I will defer to committee members. Questions, thoughts?
Just thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
I do have an invitation for committee members, and obviously the rest of the board is welcome, but I've done this and I'm remiss, I should do it again, maybe when we move into are we calling it the new building or the same building but new location, or I don't know what the language, what's that?
We're using expansion.
Expansion, okay. The expansion, thank you. I want to make sure so when we move to expansion, I'm excited to hear that it's all going to be on one floor. But I would commend everyone to take a tour of, like, one of the things that's helped me as a board member is when we talk about different issues to just focus on, I'm curious to hear now that we had a presentation to see what the call center looks like. So I would encourage you could do it today or tomorrow while we're here or when you're back in Sacramento. But I've done that a few times. And again, you're quiet and you're just kind of listening, and you obviously are having staff, lead you on the way so we don't break any rules. But it is actually really interesting to see and kind of watch how our staff engage with our members and kind of how that's all set up. So I would encourage everyone to just kind of, it's helpful to kind of see what that looks like. So I'd encourage members to do that. So I had a couple questions. One question I've had, just because I was just in Glendale, and I know when people call the 800 number, they're calling here. They're calling the contact center. So when people go, can I call the Glendale Service Center? Actually, they're calling Sacramento to this contact center. And then, the people answering those calls will say, you can go visit Glendale or something, right? So could you talk a little more about kind of how the contact center interfaces with the member service centers? Or how you see that relationship?
Sure, absolutely. In fact, I mentioned that knowledge-based tool that we have, and the member service centers use that as well. And that helps ensure consistency of information provided. We try to not move the contacts too much. If the member's adamant, of course, we don't stop them, but we try to see if we can help them there at our level. And one thing people don't know, and I neglected to share, is our average talk time is about 10 minutes. And sometimes there's quick calls. Tell me about my pay stub or something quick. But sometimes they're an hour long, and we're talking about retirement. So they really can talk about everything that we need to. But we partner together, and we will move calls if we need to. We also have the scheduling line out of retirement readiness where they will schedule workshops and counseling sessions and that type of thing. And they actually share the IVR with us. So we can transfer calls there as well.
So basically, it's kind of one-stop contact center, and then if it's one of our faculty or teacher associations wanting something more, they can transfer them from there to get the information they need.
Yeah.
And then I guess that dovetails into the question around, do we have, or have we thought about, or do we have kind of specialized, I don't know, benefit specialists, or when folks call in? Again, I'm always thinking about like the most kind of niche-y kind of member we have, which is usually like a part-time community college faculty member that teaches at 3 different districts or something. I know in the past when I've asked that question, it's been, well, we like to have everyone have, kind of, but I know in dealing with it that there's so much, I'm still learning so much after, so much time on the board. How do we handle kind of specialties, if you will,
it's a good question.
and how do we train people, and or do we think about helping a group of folks have a deeper knowledge in certain areas of expertise?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And you're right. Right now, everybody knows everything. And it goes into the queue, and then we have a process where our agents can reach out to a more tenured, a more seasoned agent and get quick answers, or elevate the call there if we need to. And what you're describing is skill-based routing. And that's part of, see,
I'm learning this new language. I'm learning from Bill and everyone the language, the vernacular of this world.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of telephony and what we need to do. We do want to do that. And currently, the way our IVR is designed, we're not able to. So
IVR is what I want to make sure IVR.
Yeah, when you call in and thank you for calling CalSTRS, press 1 for this, press 2 for this.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
That jargon.
That's okay.
I'm throwing around jargon.
I love learning the new, but it's like every little niche has its jargon. So IVR, okay.
Interactive voice recording.
Got it.
So the way it's been designed, that's not possible, mainly because we do have an option called Other today, and 60% or so press Other, so they won't necessarily get to the right skilled person. But this is that third bullet, and that's what we would like to do, is to be able to do that. And when we get into the new technology, that's the number one. I know it's Bill's number one, is to be able to do that, and that'll take the IVR to be redesigned, and then it's easy. It's pushing buttons and skilling people, and what we'll be able to do with that also is for new hires, is to be able to route, a certain type of a more simple call. Now, I hate to say that because none of them are simple, but more common, let's say. Yeah, there's things that rarely come up, and there's things that consistently come up.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Keely. Right. So I do, and I'm sorry, Shani couldn't see me, so I'm sorry. But I do want to mention there is a group that actually is in the legal office that provide some very specialized customer service to our members, and they are the community property group, and they are the ones that members reach out to when they're going through a marital or partnership dissolution. And I want to tell you that their customer satisfaction survey results are 100%. Yeah. So considering the emotionality of the situation, they consistently score as high or higher than the rest of the customer service folks. We don't usually hear about them because, well, they work in the legal office. So, but there's 6 people there that's what they do all day. So I just wanted to mention, especially in response to your question about specialization, that's their specialization.
That's really helpful, because I do think, I'm convinced, I'm not doing your job, but I'm convinced sometimes people just need to have someone listen to them. So, usually someone's mad about something and you're just like, that sounds hard, and then you can help them with the information. But that's helpful, Brian. I assumed we had that, but that's helpful to hear kind of how broad
And it was nice to have the opportunity to call them out too. So
thank you. No, thank you. That's one of the most, I think, besides public speaking, I think that's in the top 3 of, divorce and the stress of that, and being able to have people to help you navigate some of the numbers around that is very stress relieving. So thanks for that, Brian. So we'll look forward, Bill, to hearing about that down the road and that kind of specialization and habit. I am really interested, you guys know, because I talk about this all the time, how tech is going to help us really, and AI, even though I'm kind of scared of it too, but how AI can really help serve our members. What about customer feedback? Because you had a slide talking about, I'm just curious, maybe in the big ecosystem, I know we have this, but could you just talk a little bit about how we use technology maybe to kind of get the customer feedback we get from the calls, and how do we integrate that in a systematic way to improve our systems that ultimately come back to kind of like help whatever area is kind of being, like, hey, I didn't get, I don't know, whatever the critique is of what we do, but how do we get that feedback in a systematic way versus anecdotal? Can you talk about that?
Currently, it's anecdotal on the phone calls, and that's a system limitation as well. Okay. With our current telephony system, our callers are able to give us a score, not any what we call verbatims, where they can actually say something. So it is anecdotal, and that's the collaborative piece. We encourage the sharing of that so that we can pass it on. And we even have a SharePoint site where our team members can put in the recommendations and the ideas they have to make things better.
Okay. So I think, Bill, for I know you're going to tee up our work plan for next year, but I definitely think our committee would be interested to kind of hear how and when some of this telephony, I know we've talked about this already, but just for public record, I think we're really eager to kind of have these systems be more efficient, right? So that we're getting clear, quick, almost kind of in real time improvements when we get that feedback. So that's helpful to hear. I think the last piece the other piece that I'm always curious about is, I do know a lot of our members, again, even younger members, really love talking to a person because they feel like, oh, it's, a real human being helping me. The downside of that is that nothing's in writing. And so I wondered, because sometimes what I tell, the faculty I spend time with is, I have like an email file, of like Sharon Hendricks' retirement planning or something. And I put like everything I talk to about my own personal finances on retirement in that folder. And I tell members, hey, this is part of your responsibility is. And so I wonder how we think about efficiency around, so when you have a phone call and you get the information from someone, it's a phone call, and so it's just in the ether. I mean, people can take notes, I guess, but how we think about, because you commented about some of the online inefficiencies around kind of, I don't know if it was texting or the online interaction sometimes maybe not being, yeah. And so it's just something I'm thinking about is how, for our members, I know when they go into a service center, they have an appointment and they actually get like written feedback or a written quote or estimate, I guess it's called. But that's just something I've been wondering about is I think the phone interaction is really important because it gives an assurance. The flip side of that is nothing's in writing. And so then they might come back. I know we record things and so we, on our side, because I've sat on appeals, so I know how that works. But I'm just thinking for our members in terms of their own accountability and their own ability to kind of go, oh, I talked to this person and this is what they said. Oh yeah, they said this, for their own record keeping. If there's something after a phone call, we can send them a transcript, or I don't know, if there's something in writing that our members could have so they have ownership over those interactions. So it's something that I don't know with technology if that can be provided. But does that make sense?
Absolutely. They're not walking away with anything like they are from the MSCs. It's not happening today. They don't have anything, but we can take that away and talk about it. Definitely. But I will say the things that we're sharing are things that are already out there. Mm-hmm. The member handbook is an amazing publication. And although it's not individual, it's not data for that individual, that's the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
But
We just need to get them to read it, though.
Well,
That's
there's that,
or
yeah.
make YouTube videos, TikTok videos, 30 seconds on different topics or something.
something
But
fun,
yeah.
but we'll take that away and discuss
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it's just, these are all things that and then the last piece, and then we can move on. But I just think it would be interesting at some point. One of the things I'm curious about is the lifespan of a member. So I know in K through 12, typically people get into teaching younger, right? In general, I would say. And then in the community colleges, a lot of us are in our 30s or 40s. It'd be interesting. Or 50s, or do you want to get hired at LACCD, Karen, even after everything I've said? But it would be interesting to kind of look at the lifespan of a CalSTRS member and see, like, what are the touch points that we have with a member throughout their career, obviously with you, but obviously, Bill, I mean, I think with the whole benefits piece, I'd be curious.
Absolutely.
So, like, I get hired at this district in my 20s. When do I hear about CalSTRS? Like, what's my first touch point with them? Am I making it? Are they making it? Is CalSTRS making it to me? I think that would be interesting for a future benefits and services conversation. That we don't have to add it to the work plan, Bill, but just down the road, I think it would be interesting for us to hear more about the lifespan of our members on the touch points as beyond probably the scope of even what you do. But it's something I've been thinking more because, again, I want the 20-something teacher when they get hired. I want somehow CalSTRS, I want us to reach out to them first or in conjunction with their HR or whatever. And then obviously mid-career pension too. I kind of look at the whole thing and go, and I'm a little concerned sometimes the members I talk to that, their touch point with CalSTRS is typically in their 50s and 60s when they're ready to retire. And I'm like, we need the whole lifespan. So it'd be interesting to look at that at some point down the road, kind of the lifespan of our members and the interactions, the touch points they have in particular around, sort of benefits and like either the call center and or, how are we engaging with members on their kind of benefits education, counseling, whatever you want to call it.
No, absolutely. And we'd be happy to talk about what we're currently doing and what's on the horizon. And as you mentioned, it overlaps in different business areas, but there's the outreach that happens from retirement readiness. Our enterprise strategy management is documenting what we call the journey of the members. And so there's touch. Yeah, exactly. And so we're definitely mindful of it and always trying to make it the best possible experience. And you're right, the sooner the better. Yeah. The sooner the better. So
I'm reading all the news about Social Security and I'm like, okay, we need to start getting folks younger because who knows what's going to happen in 10, 20 years for our members in terms of their retirement security and just for workers in general in America. So
we want them to be comfortable.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. This has been really, really educational. So thank you and thank you to all the folks answering calls for our members right now. We really appreciate the work that you do. And so thank you for this.
Thank you for acknowledging them. I wish they could be here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're watching or you can let them know that we say thank you. So,
thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Bill, so work plan. I teed you up for this one. Walk us through this for our 23-24 meeting work plan. You and I and Ken had a chance to chat a little bit in preparation for this. So tell us what you're thinking about and what we have look forward to for next year.
Absolutely. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Bill Perez, Chief Benefits Officer. And yes, I have had some opportunity to engage with Sharon and Ken in discussion of laying out the framework for next year's items for benefits and services. So we'll be covering a couple of research items, one of which next September, this coming September, will be the annual member survey that we typically look at trends in terms of member satisfaction. In January, we'll be looking at trends in teacher and student enrollments and some of the impacts associated with that and whether we feel that there's any need to sort of raise some attention to that. So we may be partnering with actuarial on that presentation. We'll also be covering member outreach and education strategy, and that's going to be looking at marketing for the defined benefit, financial literacy, as well as an increased focus on pension too. And we'll also be looking at making updates to the early and mid curriculum that we currently provide. As a matter of fact, we're potentially looking at shifting what we call our early career, which we're currently looking at 44 and under. And to your point, Sharon, depending upon the age at which K through 12 start, if they're in mid-20s and we're looking at up to 44, you could potentially be well through your career. Hopefully, to your point, we're not reaching our members at too late of a stage to really try to convey the importance of ancillary savings. So we're looking to do some work in terms of that. And then we'll also be talking about our statewide presence and looking at strategic satellite positioning where that might be appropriate. So more to come on the member service centers and the optimal use of those regional offices. In May of next year, we'll be looking at quality management, account review for employer services, and also new approaches that we're going to be leveraging that were an outcome from a year-long engagement, which we called Employer Reporting to Final Benefit. It was an adjunct to our work on AB 1667 with stakeholder groups. And there are a couple of major changes that are coming in the next year to employer services, one of which will be the augmentation of the compensation review unit, which initially was brought online to look at addressing potential instances of spiking. Where we see an opportunity is that we want to evaluate retirement lines for members prior to retirement, all in an effort to mitigate issues that happen post-retirement, in line with our efforts on AB 1667. The other thing we're looking to do is incorporating a quality management team in much the same way as the contact center has a robust quality assurance team. We're looking to do that for our 24-member team in employer help that work with our school districts in clarifying issues relative to correct reporting of service. And finally, we're also looking to bolster the audit resolution team, which works with issues where we've uncovered irregularities in terms of employer reporting. So lots going on over the next year in employer services. It'll probably be it will be the single largest growing area within the benefits and services branch. And part of this is a...
Zimmer's here, so he's nodding his head, and I'm excited about, you know how I feel about employers. We want to get them educated, right, with our employees, right? So
Yeah, and those are just three. There's lots more that we're looking to touch up. That'll be a pretty robust topic that we'll be covering. And then almost in alignment with what you were discussing just a bit earlier when Shani had her presentation, evolving telephony technology within benefits and services. We felt the timing for this was right to wait until we have engaged in this upcoming significant shift that we're looking at. And so without sort of divulging too much, we're looking at things such as natural language in our interactive voice response system, as opposed to pressing 1, 2, 3, or other, which we're going to be eliminating. Skills-based routing, which is quite frankly one of the things that allows us to create a low-effort member experience. Ideally, you want to get your customer to the right person the first time. And so invariably, despite our efforts to create a very robust new employee training program, when you have a new representative that is just starting to take calls, ideally you don't want them receiving a very complicated call, which will make the experience clearly less rich for the member. So skills-based routing will afford us opportunities to try to the point that was being spoken to earlier, have individuals that have expertise in particular areas to get those calls to those individuals, as opposed to the anyone can help you model. The low effort experience does not use the anyone can help you model. Because of that level of knowledge that doesn't come up every day. So when you have to speak to it, ideally it's someone that has a deep bench in understanding that. So that's something we're looking forward to. Relative to what you were conveying about, understanding more about the sort of lifespan of our members. One of the things that is not on here, but we are working towards, actually has to do with customer experience framework. And in conjunction with Enterprise Strategy Management and my colleague Vaishali, we are looking towards putting forth a program to sort of lay out a foundation for a mature customer experience framework, which would look at revisiting our member journeys, as well as all the other elements that look at not only interaction type or point of service surveying, but also some of the elements that a mature CX framework would incorporate. And a lot of exciting stuff coming relative to that as well. And then in May of next year, we'll also have input on the 24-25 committee work plan, as well as a review of the committee charter.
Any questions? Karen, go ahead.
I just have one. Thank you very much. I was curious about the September meeting. If it's the research, we're going to be listening and it's an informational item that's already happened, or is it because it's going to begin in September?
It's for the prior
Right.
annual member survey that was
Yeah,
conducted,
when it
so
comes
we
to-
tabulate the results, and most likely
So
Tom.
as far as, we're going to have a meeting though, right? And so we'll listen to the results of that survey.
Right, so this is that the September is for the Benefits and Services Committee that's within the September board meeting,
okay,
right?
okay.
And it'll be looking back over the last year, and we do this every year.
Right.
And it's basically.
But that's the only agenda item.
That's
then,
the only
as you
agenda
said.
item right now for
Okay.
Benefits and Services
Okay.
for September. Yep. Thanks, Karen. Denise.
Hi, Bill. So I just have to ask, is anybody talking about an app yet? I just feel like it's.
I could only have $1 for every conversation we've had about the app. Yes, so originally, I think years back, and this preceded me, there were plans to incorporate that into one of the segments of the pension solution rollout implementation. So we are definitely still looking to have something along those lines. There are no plans to incorporate it currently with the initial rollout of the pension solution implementation. However, what we've been discussing, and I've had some conversations with this topic with Ashish as well as Kate, is looking at sort of like a front-facing app that actually is using a mobile optimized platform, because you probably had the experience of trying to use your smartphone for certain websites that just don't look right on a small device. And that can be a mechanism whereby we leverage what appears as an app, but is actually on the back end looking at a mobile optimized web. So short answer, yes, we are looking at that, and we see some benefits potentially in some of the things that we had been discussing with Ken and Sharon as we looked at some opportunities for retirement readiness. And I think Sharon even mentioned it a bit earlier, the fact that if you look at some of the content that's offered at many of the companies, I won't mention them by name, but very well-known financial services companies, you'll find a lot of, interestingly enough, 5-6 minute segments on specific information. So you don't have to commit an hour to something. So we're looking at the possibility of developing content that some of which might be drawn from our longer sessions and some unique, which will give more bite-sized financial literacy related information.
So in my mind, just in addition to that, as somebody who's done very quite a few welcome teacher events. I think it would be really easy to get new teachers to download an app, and then it would be really easy to send, like every October, the message to check your report card and that kind of thing. So just always looking for ways to get teachers connected earlier.
It's on the radar.
Thank
We've
you.
heard the message loud and clear about the app, so yes.
My only last comment would be, thanks Denise for raising that. That's, it is what it is. On the trends in teachers and student enrollment piece in January, Bill, I just was reading this morning, I don't know if it's in the LA Times somewhere, just again about the population decline in California. I think it's the third year. Again, I'm a native Californian. People are always going to love living here. But I certainly think maybe on top of kind of trends in teacher and student enrollment, a perfect opportunity for our superintendent of schools to be with us in this conversation. But looking at, teacher shortages, student enrollment issues, and then obviously, again, I know populations, it'd be interesting to see where those population changes are happening in California for the last 3 years. But monitoring that trend, and obviously we know with population change comes maybe less kids in schools, all that, less teachers, we all get the ecosystem there. So in that conversation in January, it might be helpful if you think it's relevant, or talking to David and the actuaries, that population piece, kind of general population,
Absolutely.
in addition to teachers and student enrollment, might be helpful, so.
Absolutely. We were talking about it just this morning.
Great. Awesome. Great. We're all set. Okay. I'm mindful of time. It's 9:58 and we're supposed to start in 2 minutes. So let's go ahead and thank you so much, everyone, for benefits and services. Appreciate it. And we'll just take a quick break. I think Harry's in the back somewhere. So we'll start in 5 minutes for the regular board meeting. Thanks so much. Brian? Sure. Oh, sorry, 5.
For the record, I just want to let it be known that we have a quorum and we're just proceeding after
Thank
the
you.
break.
Thank you. All right, so Summer, I got it, Karen, thank you. I'm good now, I'm on track. So item number 5 is the review of the committee charter. Bill, anything? Again, I apologize, everybody. Not enough coffee this morning, but I'm caffeinated now. Watch out. Bill.
The last changes that we made were in 2022. There are no changes for the upcoming year to the committee charter.
Great. So this is something we look at every year. If there are any changes, comments that committee members want to make, let us know, but we'll be looking at this again next year. Thank you for that. Item number 6, the review for information requests. Summer, I think there was just one that I mentioned about looking at the lifespan, and it sounds like Bill is going to be addressing that at some point. So that doesn't need to be a formal information request. That's the only one I had. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know if, again, it's kind of the same scenario where it's not actually formal, but something tangible after a phone call I had written down under something else.
Yeah, I think staff can follow up with that afterwards. Thank you, Summer. Number 7 is the draft agenda for the next committee meeting. Any comments, questions about that? That's our next committee meeting will be in September. And we mentioned that that's going to be our annual member survey. So we'll have Tom Buffalo. He's not in the room, but he'll be our research person. And then the last, but most importantly, our opportunity for statements from the public. Are there any members from the public, Samantha, that wish to speak?
There are no members of the public in the queue.
Thank you, Samantha. So I'm looking at Brian and Summer. Are we complete with the benefits and services agenda? We are going to adjourn benefits and services and just take a 3-minute, transition break. I will welcome Mr. Chair Harry Keeley back to the dais, and we'll get started in 5 minutes with the regular board meeting. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.